My wife smiled at me across the dinner table. Warm. Loving. The same smile I'd fallen in love with 23 years ago. But something was different now. Her eyes didn't match her mouth anymore. They were calculating. Cold. Like she was looking at a business transaction instead of her husband. And that's when I knew. The woman I'd built an empire with was planning to take everything and walk away. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. I'm Darius Coleman, 47 years old. Started with nothing but a dream and my mama's prayers. Built a construction company from the ground up in Atlanta. 3 commercial properties. 2 rental buildings. Investment portfolio worth more than I ever imagined when I was that broke kid in southwest Atlanta eating government cheese sandwiches. Shanice had been there for most of it. Met her at Spelman when I was working campus security at night while taking business classes at Georgia State during the day. She was smart, beautiful, ambitious. We built this life together. Or so I thought. The first sign came on a Tuesday evening. I walked into my home office and found Shanice sitting at my desk. My desk. The one I specifically asked her not to use because I kept all my business files there. She jumped like I'd caught her stealing. "Baby, you scared me," she said, closing my laptop quick. Too quick. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Just checking my email. My computer's being slow." My laptop was never slow. I'd just bought it 3 months ago. Top of the line, and Shanice had her own MacBook that worked perfectly fine. "Use your own computer," I said, keeping my voice even. She smiled. That new smile. "Of course, honey." I was just being lazy. But I noticed something. The browser history icon in the corner. She'd been looking at my financial statements, my bank accounts, the property deeds, everything. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But that night I couldn't sleep. I laid there next to her, listening to her breathe, and I started thinking, really thinking, about all the little things I'd been ignoring. The way she'd been dressing different lately, more makeup, new perfume. Said she was just taking better care of herself. The late nights at her book club, the phone calls she'd take in the other room, the way she'd started working out every morning, suddenly caring about her appearance in a way she hadn't in years. I'm not stupid. I know what those signs usually mean. But Shanice and I had been through everything together. 3 miscarriages before we decided to focus on our careers instead of kids. My mama's stroke, her daddy's funeral. The recession that almost killed my business. She'd held my hand through all of it. Or had she? When I really thought about it, Shanice had been different for about 6 months now. Distant, like her mind was somewhere else, even when her body was in the room with me. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I installed tracking software on our shared iPad, the one she always carried around the house. I'm not proud of it, but something in my gut was screaming that I needed to protect myself. What I found made my blood run cold. Shanice had been researching divorce attorneys. Not just any divorce attorneys. The most aggressive, ruthless ones in Atlanta. The kind that specialize in taking wealthy men to the cleaners. She'd bookmarked articles about hiding assets before divorce, about how to maximize spousal support claims, about Georgia's equitable distribution laws. But that wasn't even the worst part. There were text messages to a number I didn't recognize. Hundreds of them. She'd been deleting them from her phone, but they synced to the iPad before she could erase them there too. "Baby, I'm almost ready," one message said. "Just need to document everything first. The properties, the accounts, all of it. My lawyer says Georgia is a no-fault state. I don't need a reason, just proof of assets." The response came back. "Good. You deserve half of everything. More than half after what you've put up with. Once we're together, we'll have everything we need." My hands shook as I read those words. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built. She was planning to rip it away, and she had someone helping her, some man waiting in the wings to play house with my wife, using my money. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of my office building. Couldn't even go inside. My secretary kept calling, but I couldn't answer. I just kept reading those messages, planning, scheming, talking about me like I was just an obstacle to overcome. That's when I called my mama. Geneva Coleman didn't raise no fool. 72 years old and sharp as a tack. She'd survived the projects, raised 3 boys by herself, and taught us all one thing: protect what's yours. "Mama, I need your help," I said. "What's wrong, baby?" I told her everything. The laptop, the messages, the divorce research. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then she spoke, and her voice was steel. "You come to my house tonight. Don't tell Shanice where you're going. We need to talk to Reggie Mitchell." Reginald Mitchell was our family attorney. Had been since before I was born. He'd helped my mama with everything from housing discrimination cases to my business incorporation. If anyone could help me, it was him. That night, I told Shanice I had a late meeting with a contractor. She barely looked up from her phone. "Okay, honey, don't wait up for me. I'm meeting the girls for dinner." The girls? Right. I wondered if she was really meeting her book club, or if she was meeting him, the man who was helping her plot against me. At my mama's house, Reggie sat across from us at the kitchen table. Same table where I'd done my homework as a kid, where Mama had taught me to never let anyone make me feel small. Now it was teaching me another lesson. Trust no one. "How much are we talking about?" Reggie asked. "Total assets? About 8.5 million, maybe 9. Reggie whistled low. "And she's planning to file for divorce?" "Soon, from what I can tell. Georgia law says she'd be entitled to half of marital assets, everything you acquired during the marriage." "I know. But," Reggie said, leaning forward, "if those assets were transferred to an irrevocable trust before divorce proceedings begin, they'd be protected. Can't touch what you don't legally own anymore." My mama nodded. "That's what I was thinking." "Geneva would be the trustee," Reggie continued. "You'd have no legal ownership. Shanice couldn't claim what isn't yours." "How fast can we do this?" I asked. "If we move quick. 3 days." I looked at my mama. She looked back at me with those eyes that had seen everything, survived everything. "Do it," I said. The next 72 hours were the longest of my life. Reggie worked fast. We transferred the commercial properties into an irrevocable trust with my mama as the sole trustee. The rental buildings, the investment accounts, everything except $50,000 in our joint checking account and the house we lived in, which I put in the trust too. On paper, I was almost broke. In reality, my mama controlled everything, and she'd control it until the day she decided otherwise. Maybe forever. I didn't care. Better my mama than my backstabbing wife. Shanice didn't notice a thing. She was too busy with her secret phone calls and her mysterious dinner meetings. 2 weeks later, I was in my office when my secretary buzzed me. "Mr. Coleman, there's a process server here to see you." My heart stopped, then started again. Faster. This was it. The man handed me the papers with an apologetic look. "Sorry, sir. Just doing my job." I looked down at the document. Petition for divorce. Shanice had filed, just like I knew she would. The papers demanded half of all marital assets, listed every property, every account, every investment, demanded spousal support of $15,000 a month, claimed she'd sacrificed her own career to support mine. That last part almost made me laugh. Shanice worked as a marketing consultant, made good money, hadn't sacrificed anything. I called Reggie. "They filed," I said. "Good. Let them. When we get to mediation, we'll show them exactly what you own, which is almost nothing. She's going to lose her mind. That's her problem, not yours. You protected yourself. That's what smart men do. I went home that night and found Shanice in the living room. She looked nervous, guilty. "Darius, we need to talk," she said. "I know. I got served today." Her eyes widened. She hadn't expected me to know already. I'm sorry. I just think we've grown apart. I need to find myself. Figure out who I am outside of this marriage. Find herself. With my money and her boyfriend. "It's fine," I said calmly. "If you want a divorce, we'll get a divorce." She looked surprised, like she'd expected me to fight, to beg, to break down. "Really? Really? We'll split everything fair and square, whatever the law says." She actually smiled, probably thinking about all those millions she was about to get, all those properties, that spousal support check every month. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about this," she said. "Of course, I've always been reasonable. But what I didn't say was this. You played me, Shanice. You played me good. But I'm about to show you something. You can't con a man who sees you coming. And baby, I saw you coming from a mile away." The mediation was scheduled for 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of Shanice walking around our house like she'd already won. 3 weeks of her texting her boyfriend about their future together. 3 weeks of her looking at expensive condos in Buckhead, planning her new life. I let her dream, because I knew what was coming. And when that mediation room door closed, when her lawyer laid out all her demands, when she sat there with that smug look on her face thinking she was about to get paid, I was going to watch her whole world crumble. Because the money she wanted, the properties she'd already spent in her mind, they didn't exist anymore. Not for her, anyway. The mediation room smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Curtis Franklin, the mediator, sat at the head of the long mahogany table. Shanice sat on one side with her lawyer, Monique Harris, a woman in a sharp red suit with a reputation for destroying husbands in divorce court. I sat on the other side with Reggie, and I waited. Shanice wouldn't look at me. She kept her eyes on her papers, on her phone, anywhere but at my face. Maybe she felt guilty. More likely she was just counting her money in her head, planning how she'd spend it. Monique spoke first. "My client is seeking an equitable division of all marital assets acquired during the 23-year marriage. We have documentation of 3 commercial properties valued at approximately $4.2 million, 2 rental properties valued at $1.8 million, investment accounts totaling $2.1 million, and the marital home valued at $400,000. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of everything: bank statements, property deeds, tax returns. Shanice had done her homework, documented everything perfectly. "Additionally," Monique continued, "we're seeking spousal support of $15,000 monthly. Mrs. Coleman sacrificed her career advancement to support her husband's business endeavors. She's entitled to maintain the lifestyle she's accustomed to." Curtis looked at me. "Mr. Coleman, how do you respond?" Reggie didn't even open his briefcase. "My client agrees to an equitable division of all assets he currently owns." Shanice's head snapped up. She looked at me for the first time. Something in my expression must have told her, because I saw it. That first flicker of doubt in her eyes. "What do you mean, currently owns?" Monique asked. Reggie pulled out a single document, slid it across the table. 3 weeks ago, my client transferred all major assets into an irrevocable trust. The trustee is his mother, Geneva Coleman. Mr. Coleman no longer has legal ownership of the properties, investments, or assets listed in your documentation." The room went silent, dead silent. I could hear the air conditioning humming, could hear Shanice's breathing getting faster. Monique grabbed the document. Read it. Read it again. Her face went from confident to concerned to furious in about 10 seconds. This is fraudulent conveyance, she sputtered. He transferred assets to avoid marital obligations. A judge will reverse this. Actually, Reggie said calmly, it's perfectly legal. The transfer occurred before divorce proceedings began. My client had every right to engage in estate planning. The trust is irrevocable. It cannot be undone. And Mrs. Coleman has no legal claim to assets my client doesn't own. I watched Shanice, watched her face go from brown to ashy, watched her hands start shaking. She'd been so sure, so confident, had it all planned out, and now it was falling apart right in front of her eyes. What about the marital home? Monique demanded. Also in the trust. The joint checking account contains $50,000. We're happy to split that equally, $25,000 each. Shanice finally spoke. Her voice came out small, broken. Darius, what did you do? I looked at her. Really looked at her. I protected myself. But that's everything. That's our whole life. No, I said. That was my life, my work, my sacrifice. And you were planning to take it all and leave me with nothing. Her lawyer jumped in. Mr. Coleman, my client is entitled— Your client, I interrupted, is entitled to half of what I own, which is $25,000. She can have her half, $12,500, plus whatever she makes from her marketing business. But that wasn't even the worst part. Shanice stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. I need to talk to my husband. Alone. Monique grabbed her arm. That's not advisable. Now! Shanice's voice cracked. She was panicking. I could see it. Her whole plan was unraveling, and she knew it. Curtis looked at me. I nodded. 5 minutes. The lawyers and mediator left the room. Suddenly it was just me and Shanice. The woman I'd loved for more than 2 decades. The woman who'd been planning to destroy me. Baby, she said, and her voice was different now. Soft, sweet, like the old Shanice. The one from before. Baby, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake. I was confused, going through something. But we can fix this. Fix what? I asked. Fix you trying to steal everything I built? I wasn't trying to steal. Don't lie to me. My voice came out harder than I intended. I saw the messages, Shanice. I saw everything. You were planning this for months, researching divorce lawyers, documenting assets, and you had help. Her face went pale. What messages? The ones on the iPad? The ones you thought you deleted? Baby, I'm almost ready. Remember those? Once we're together, we'll have everything we need. Shanice grabbed the edge of the table, like she might fall down if she didn't hold on to something. Who is he? I asked. There's no one. Who is he? She closed her eyes. Tears started running down her face. Real tears this time, not the fake ones she'd probably practiced for court. His name is Rodney, she whispered. Rodney Bennett. We met at a marketing conference 8 months ago. 8 months. She'd been cheating on me for 8 months, planning this for months, and I'd been walking around like everything was fine. He told me I deserved better, she continued, that you took me for granted, that I'd helped build your empire, and you treated me like an employee instead of a partner. So you decided to take half my money and run off with him? He said it was fair, that Georgia law entitled me to it, that I'd earned it. I laughed, couldn't help it. He coached you, told you exactly what to do, how to document everything, which lawyers to hire. Probably helped you plan the whole thing. Shanice nodded slowly, ashamed. He said once the divorce was final, we could be together. He has a condo in Miami. We were going to move there, start fresh. On my money. On our money, she corrected. I was married to you for 23 years, Darius. I thought I deserved something for that. You deserved honesty, I said. You deserved to sit down with me and tell me you were unhappy, that you wanted out. We could have worked out a fair settlement, but instead you snuck around, plotted, schemed with your boyfriend to financially ruin me. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. Please, we can fix this. I'll end things with Rodney. We can go to counseling. Start over. I stood up, looked down at her crying face, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just empty. You don't get it. You get it, I said. You can't fix this. You showed me who you really are, and I protected myself from you. That money, those properties, they're gone. You'll never touch them, and I'll never trust you again. But what am I supposed to do? She cried. I quit my job 2 months ago. I was planning, you thought you'd be rich, living in Miami with Rodney, spending my money while I started over with nothing. She didn't deny it, couldn't deny it. There was a knock on the door. The lawyers came back in. Shanice stumbled back to her chair, mascara running down her face. Monique looked at her client's state and turned to Reggie. We need time to regroup, explore our legal options. Take all the time you need, Reggie said, but the trust is ironclad. We made sure of that. The mediation ended. Shanice left with her lawyer, looking like a ghost. I went home. Except it wasn't home anymore. It was just a house, a building my mama owned through the trust, a place where I'd lived a lie for 8 months while my wife planned to destroy me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. I kept thinking about Rodney Bennett, this man I'd never met, this man who'd helped my wife plot against me. Who was he? What did he do? What did he want? I did what any man would do. I looked him up. Rodney Bennett, 49 years old, divorced twice, owned a struggling marketing firm in Buckhead, had debt up to his eyeballs, tax liens, creditors chasing him. And suddenly everything made sense. He didn't love Shanice. He loved what he thought she was about to have. Millions of dollars. Properties. A woman with money who could save his failing business, pay off his debts, give him the life he couldn't build for himself. He was using her, just like she was using me. I was sitting in my office the next day when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Is this Darius Coleman? A man's voice, smooth, confident. Who's asking? Rodney Bennett. I think we need to talk. My hand tightened on the phone. We got nothing to talk about. I think we do. See, Shanice told me what happened at mediation, about the trust, about how you hid all the assets. Didn't hide anything, just protected what's mine. That's not how the law sees it, Rodney said. Fraudulent conveyance, hiding marital assets. A good lawyer could tear that trust apart. You encouraging my wife to keep fighting? He laughed. Cold. Mean. I'm encouraging her to get what she deserves, what we deserve. See, Shanice and we're building a life together, and we need resources to do that. You mean you need my money? I mean she needs her fair share, and I'm going to make sure she gets it, even if we have to drag this out for years, even if we have to bleed you dry in legal fees. That's when I knew. This wasn't over. Rodney wasn't going to let Shanice give up. He was going to push her to fight, to appeal, to make my life hell until he got what he wanted. But what Rodney didn't know was this. I had one more card to play, one more piece of information I'd been holding back, and when I played it, it was going to destroy both of them. I just had to wait for the right moment. You do what you gotta do, Rodney, I said, but I promise you this. You're not getting a dime of my money. Not now. Not ever. I hung up, sat back in my chair, and smiled. Because I knew something they didn't. Something I'd discovered 3 days ago when I hired a private investigator to follow Shanice. Something that was going to change everything. Rodney Bennett wasn't just using my wife for money. He was running the same game on 2 other women, both going through divorces, both thinking he loved them, both being coached to maximize their settlements so he could benefit. And I had proof. Photos, text messages, bank records showing payments from other women to his business accounts. Shanice thought she was his future. She had no idea she was just another mark. And when I showed her the truth, when she realized the man she'd betrayed me for was nothing but a con artist, it was going to break her in ways she couldn't imagine. But I wasn't ready yet. Not quite. I needed to let this play out a little longer. Let Rodney push her to fight. Let him show his true colors. And then, when the moment was perfect, I'd drop the bomb that would end this once and for all. 2 days after Rodney's phone call, I sat in my lawyer's office, staring at a stack of photographs. My private investigator had done good work. Real good work. Pictures of Rodney with 3 different women, text message transcripts, bank records showing deposits from multiple sources, and the piece that made my stomach turn, loan documents. He had her take out loans? I asked. Reggie nodded grimly. $270,000. Personal loans in Shanice's name only. Told her it was for their business venture in Miami. The money went straight into his accounts, then disappeared. Where'd it go? Gambling debts. His creditors. A BMW he bought last month. The man's a professional con artist, Darius. Your wife isn't his first victim. Won't be his last unless someone stops him. I should have felt satisfaction. Shanice was getting exactly what she deserved. She'd tried to rob me, and instead she'd been robbed by her own partner in crime. Poetic justice. But looking at those loan documents with her signature on them, I felt something else. Something I didn't expect. Pity. What do I do with this? I asked. That's up to you. You could use it in the divorce. Show the judge she made these financial decisions on her own. Prove she's not the victim she's claiming to be. I gathered up the photos, put them in my briefcase. I need to think about it. That night, I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I called Shanice. Hello? Her voice sounded hollow, empty, like she'd been crying for days. Maybe she had been. We need to talk, in person. Darius, if this is about the divorce, it's about Rodney. Silence. Then, what about him? Meet me at Pascal's tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Come alone. I hung up before she could respond. Pascal's restaurant had been around since before I was born. A piece of Black Atlanta history, where civil rights leaders used to meet, where my daddy took my mama on their first date. Neutral ground. Safe ground. Shanice was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth in the back. She looked bad. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, eyes red and swollen. The designer clothes were gone. She wore jeans and an old sweater I recognized from years ago. I slid into the booth across from her. You look terrible, I said. Thanks. That's what every woman wants to hear. When's the last time you ate? She shrugged. I don't know, 2 days ago. Nothing tastes right anymore. I ordered her the fried chicken plate. Ordered myself the same. We sat in awkward silence until the food came. Eat, I said. She picked at her chicken. Why am I here, Darius? I pulled out the folder. Slid it across the table. Because you need to see this. Shanice opened the folder. Started looking through the photographs. Her face went from confused to shocked to devastated. She saw Rodney with the other women. Saw the bank records. Saw the loan documents. No, she whispered. No, no, no. He's been running this game on at least 3 women that we know of. Finds women going through divorces. Convinces them to fight for everything. Promises them a future together. then bleeds them dry. Shanice's hands shook as she held a photo of Rodney kissing another woman, outside a restaurant, last week, while he'd been telling Shanice he loved her. The loans, I continued, $270,000, all in your name. He told you it was for a business investment, didn't he? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. The money's gone, Shanice. He spent it, gambled it, used it to pay off his debts, and you're stuck with the payments. Oh, God. She put her head in her hands. Oh, God. What did I do? I should have felt victorious, should have rubbed it in, told her this was what she deserved for trying to betray me. But sitting there watching her fall apart, I just felt tired. He called me, I said, 2 days ago, threatened to drag out the divorce for years, said he'd bleed me dry in legal fees. That's when I knew he was just using you to get to my money. I'm so stupid, Shanice sobbed. I'm so stupid. I threw away everything for a man who never loved me, who was just using me. But that wasn't even the worst part. My phone buzzed. Text message from my investigator. I read it again, and felt my blood go cold. What? Shanice asked, seeing my expression. Rodney's gone. His apartment's cleared out. Phone's disconnected. The investigator just drove by his office. There's an eviction notice on the door. What do you mean, gone? I mean he ran. Probably figured out I was onto him. Took whatever money he had left and disappeared. Shanice started hyperventilating, gasping for air. The loans, the payments start next month. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I don't have anything. She looked at me with desperate eyes. Darius, please. I know I don't deserve it. I know I destroyed everything. But please, help me. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. Shanice was broken, destroyed, begging me for help. I could walk away, let her drown in the debt her boyfriend had created. Watch her lose everything just like she'd tried to make me lose everything. But looking at her, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. The real Shanice, not the calculating woman who'd been planning to rob me, not the cold stranger across the dinner table, but the woman I'd married, the one who'd held my hand when my business almost failed, who'd sat with me in the hospital when Mama had her stroke. She'd made a terrible mistake, been manipulated by a professional con artist, let her greed and his lies convince her to betray everything we'd built. But she was still human, still the woman I'd loved for 23 years. I'm not giving you any money, I said. Her face fell. I understand. But, I continued, I'll talk to my lawyer, see if there's a way to go after Rodney for fraud. Get those loans dismissed. You'll have to cooperate. Tell the truth about everything. No more lies. Anything, she said quickly. I'll do anything. And you need to get a job, rebuild your life, figure out who you are without me and without Rodney. She nodded. The divorce? Still happening. We're done, Shanice. What you did, I can't forgive that. But I won't leave you drowning in debt that another man created. Why? She asked. After everything I did, why would you help me? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Because my mama raised me better than that, and because holding on to hate will poison me more than it'll hurt you. We finished the meal in silence. When we got up to leave, Shanice grabbed my arm. I really am sorry, Darius, for all of it. You deserved better. Yeah, I said. I did. I drove home thinking about everything that had happened, how close I'd come to losing everything. How Shanice had almost succeeded in taking it all, how Rodney had played both of us in different ways. But there was something else nagging at me, something my mama had said the day we set up the trust. I went to see her that evening, found her in her garden, pruning her roses. Same roses she'd been tending since I was a boy. Mama, I need to ask you something. She looked up, knew from my tone this was serious. What is it, baby? The trust. When we set it up, you said you'd control it until the day you decided otherwise. What did you mean by that? Mama set down her pruning shears, pulled off her gardening gloves. Sit down, Darius. We sat on her porch swing, the same swing where she used to read me stories when I was little. I've been meaning to talk to you about something, she said. The doctors found a mass in my lung 3 months ago. My heart stopped. What? It's cancer, baby. Stage 3. They're treating it. But she trailed off. Didn't need to finish. I understood. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were dealing with your own problems. Shanice, the divorce. I didn't want to add to your burden. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why Mama had been so quick to help with the trust. Why she'd agreed to be the trustee. She wasn't just protecting me from Shanice. She was protecting our family legacy. Making sure that when she was gone, everything would stay in the family, not get taken by some woman who'd decided she deserved half after 23 years. How long do they give you? I asked. They don't know. Could be 2 years. Could be 5. Could be longer if the treatment works. I put my arm around her. This woman who'd given me everything, who'd raised me by herself, who'd always protected me. And now she was sick, and I'd been so focused on my own problems, I hadn't even noticed. The trust, she said softly. When I'm gone, it goes to you. Everything. But I wanted to make sure it was protected first, that Shanice couldn't touch it, that your future was secure. I'm sorry, Mama. Sorry I didn't see what you were going through. Nothing to be sorry for, baby. That's what mothers do. We protect our children, even when they're grown. We sat there on that porch swing until the sun went down, and I realized something. I'd won. Protected my assets, outsmarted Shanice, exposed Rodney, got everything I'd fought for. But I'd also lost something. Lost my wife. Lost my marriage. Lost years I'd never get back. And now I was facing the possibility of losing my mama too. Victory didn't feel like I thought it would. It felt hollow, empty, like I'd saved my money but lost pieces of my soul along the way. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Shanice got her $12,500 from the joint account. I helped her get the loans dismissed by providing evidence of Rodney's fraud. She got a job at a marketing firm, started rebuilding her life. We don't talk anymore. Don't need to. Everything that needed to be said was said that day at Pascal's. Rodney was eventually arrested in Florida. Turns out he'd run the same con on 2 more women down there. He's facing fraud charges in 3 states now. Won't be conning anyone for a long time. My mama's still fighting. Still in her garden every day. Still the strongest woman I know. The trust sits there, protecting everything we built, everything she'll leave behind. And me? I'm successful, protected, secure. Everything I worked for is still mine. But late at night, when I'm alone in that big house my mama owns through the trust, I think about what it cost me to get here. The marriage I lost, the trust I destroyed, the years I spent building something with someone who was willing to tear it all down. I protected my money, but I couldn't protect my heart. And maybe that's the real lesson in all of this. You can build walls high enough to keep people from taking your wealth, but those same walls can't stop you from feeling the loss when everything falls apart. I won the war, but I'm not sure anyone really wins in divorce. We just survive it, and try to build something new from the pieces that are left. That's my story. The story of how I suspected my wife was planning a divorce, moved my assets, and watched her whole world fall apart when her plan failed. Some people might say I was cold, calculated, ruthless. Maybe I was, but I was also smart. And in this world, sometimes being smart is the only way to survive. Thanks for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please leave a like and subscribe. Have you experienced something similar? Share your story in the comments below.